What's up, Next Gen Millionaires? How's it going? Joe Burns here. For those who don't know me, I'm Joe Burns, the Money Master. I really help you disrupt the money mindset that you have, money EQ, and help you unlock those answers inside that you already have and give you a different perspective about money. This week's topic could be a little fiery, so let's dive in and see what comes out. So last week, I was actually reading in the news because there's all kinds of crazy happening in the news. But I always pick out the financial pieces, right? Those are the pieces that I'm most interested in always. And there's a lot about inflation right now and things that are happening because lots of reasons, right? We could get into all kinds of different reasons. Some of them qualified to talk about, some I'm not. So I'm just going to keep it light on how it affects us because that's what I'm definitely qualified to talk about. But if we look at inflation, if we look at policy being made around inflation or financial decisions in the United States, they get me going sometimes for a couple of reasons. And let's talk about those. One, the reliance upon the government to solve our financial problems. Now, there's room for government to be wherever. This is not that. It's not going to be an argument about like government's here. Like, I don't want to dive too far into that one, right? Because we could talk about that one all day because that's not the point I want to make today. We look at that. We look at the policies being made. In a lot of cases, in my opinion, very not qualified people, right? They're making policy around financial decisions that affect a lot of people in America. And then we get on the other side and we're like, because of some of these policy changes and some of the legislation that passes in the guise of helping out the American people, when you really look at what happens, it's actually hurting us. Whether it's inflation, whether it's more taxes, whether it's money leaving in some way, shape, or form in the guise of them trying to help us. Okay, and that's what I want to point out. So I want you to be all a little more conscious about what's going on because these policies affect you in more than one way. Right, and that's really what I want to get to because it's in our minds, in our mindset, how we're thinking, in our hearts, right? It's in our bodies that we're actually responding, and we can kind of get into this weird situation where we're hoping that things change and waiting for somebody else to make that decision for us. So on that, if you look at the attitude of boundaries, right? That's what I really want to talk about today is the attitude of boundaries because this is really a boundary issue. Right? We're waiting for somebody else to make a decision that affects us, and we hope that it affects us in the way we want it to affect us. Most of us just sit here and be like, oh, there's nothing I can do because the government is changing X, Y, and Z, so I hope it doesn't adversely affect me. We're allowing somebody else's actions to impact us. This is really a boundary conversation. Now, we can't really fight back against the policy being made. The boundary piece I want to talk about today, though, is our role in how we can set boundaries around our emotions and how we respond. Some of that is bringing things back and being like, okay, I want to be financially responsible. I want to take care of myself. I want to be reliant or self-reliant, right? We could set these boundaries. And then we have to look and say, okay, how can I make this happen? Who can I talk to if I don't know how to make it happen? But how can I make it happen? Instead of relying on these outside forces, because I'd pick the government because the government's an easy target. Well, if you have a full-time job or even an entrepreneurial, you have clients, you could put this same boundary off on them. Like, well, I do this thing and I can't generate more income because, well, I'm in a corporate job and I can only make so much here. I only have a skill set that does X, Y, and Z. Or in the entrepreneurial world, it's, I only have so much time for this many clients, so that's my cap. I can't go any higher. Okay? I want you to look at these areas of your life and find out where are you waiting for somebody else to create a boundary for you before you step into that space. Maybe kind of a convoluted question, but I want you to kind of think about that. Where have I allowed somebody else to set a boundary in my life? Because of the situation I'm in, I don't think I can change it. Think about that for just a minute. If you got to pause the video, whatever you need to do. Because what I want you to do is to flip that on its head and be like, where can I set the boundary for myself to say, hey, this is where I want it to be. And then evaluate in your life who's there and see if they fit or not. Okay? So let's take the government. Let's take kind of the three examples I used, and I'm going to give you some little step-by-steps of how you can look at this, because it's not super clear. It's just like Joe's philosophical thoughts, and people are like, it sounds good, but Joe, how do we implement this? Take the government, for example. We can allow the government to do what they want to do to us, right? And in a lot of cases, like there's things we can't do to change the policy being made. And it's kind of frustrating and upset. What we can do, and here's the boundary I want you to set around this, what you can do is how you respond to what's happening from a political standpoint, right? From the government standpoint. How can you respond to that? You can be pissed off and angry. You can be determined to do something a little different when you interact with these things. You can become politically activated and like go run for office to try to change it. There are lots of things you can do, but what I have you focus on is how can you change your perspective around how those things affect you? Because not one person can change inflation. And that's a constant thing, and it's pretty high right now. What does that mean? Well, I can respond to how I feel. Am I going to stop buying things? Am I going to cut back? Am I going to go into scarcity mode and think, oh, I don't have enough money? Or are you going to like step into abundance mode and be like, no, I got plenty of things I need for everything I want, right? That's the boundary you get to set for what happens in your life. We can always choose how we want to respond to situations. It's really powerful, I promise. So your boundary around that one is how you choose to respond. And just not how you feel about it, but what are you going to do about it as well? What actions are you going to take to help resolve that? And at what point do you have the boundary? So think about that. Let's go to if you have a corporate job, right? And you're there and you're like, well, they only pay me so much. There's a lot you can actually do here. I mean, you can find a new job. You can ask for a raise. I mean, those are the two easiest things, right? You can take your money and invest it somewhere else, right? If you have like a salary job or even like work by the hour, there's ways you can increase the amount of income you have. I promise you, no matter what job you have, there are ways to increase it. So again, that boundary is going to be, do I like what I'm making? Do I want to make more? Okay, if I want to make more, can that happen where I'm at? Do I think it can? Yes or no? Cool. If solve that and then solve for the next thing. But again, set that boundary for yourself. Don't feel like what you have is just given to you and that's all that you can have. You can have so much more, I promise. So let's go to entrepreneurs. If you own your own business, small business owners, you are super in control of how much money you make. So the boundaries got to be a little differently. Are your rates, if you charge by the hour or you charge by project, are your rates high enough? Do they make you squirm a little bit? If not, increase your rates. Right? That's an easy way. And guess what? Some clients may bail, but most of the time the clients, if they like you, they're going to stay. Find new ways to package your products. It doesn't require all your time to be involved. Like I do one-on-one coaching and I can only do so much one-on-one. I can only have so much. So how can I grow my business if I only do one-on-one coaching? Well, I have a program that I run as well that has a group coaching program or piece element that clips into it. So I can scale that instead. I could publish a book. I could do speaking. There's lots of different ways I can do it. But if I think, oh no, I'm just a coach, I only do one-on-one coaching. Well, yeah, I'm going to limit how much money even I can make. Or I have to increase my prices as well. But that's the boundary. So you need to set that and be like, where do I want to be? What can I do to make it happen? But there's going to be lots of emotions and stuff coming to us. And it always happens with boundaries. People always try to push against the boundaries. So that's why I'm always going to encourage you to set the boundary before you start taking the action. So you have a clear idea of what that boundary looks like and what happens, like at what point do you cross it, or does somebody cross it coming in trying to change it for you? Because that always happens. So to just wrap this up, a lot of times people, they rely on other people, especially the government, right? We're so like, oh, the government's going to help us. It's going to take care of us. But a lot of the policies and things they do don't really help us. So a lot do, but there's a lot that don't. And we have to adjust life around it. And we get all mad and angry and all these emotions. And what I'm saying is those emotions aren't necessary. The emotions might inspire us to take some action, but you don't got to hold on to them. Let them go. We use whatever tools and processes. Like I've given you lots of tools. Go back and watch the channel, like Write and Burn. You can yell in the toilet. You can yell into a pillow or something, right? Just get out those emotions of the angerness that you feel about a situation you don't feel like you have control of, and then figure out what you do have control of. So again, boundaries. Create boundaries in your life. And as you do so, a lot of people always fight with me, Joe. They're like, Joe, boundaries are so restrictive because now I can only do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, be honest with when you create your boundaries, but boundaries are actually really freeing. It feels weird that we put structure in our life and it can be freeing, but it really is. It makes it easy for us to structure our lives in a way that we want to live it and not allow other people to affect us emotionally the way we don't want it to happen. And there's lots of deeper conversations in there we can hop into, but we're not going to go there today. So really think about these different things. Think about these different pieces that push on you. And then again, what can you do to make your situation better? Because in your world, you matter the most. I 100% agree with that. So it's all about you. So figure out what makes you happy and what you can do. Create some good boundaries around these areas. And as you do that, you're going to see different ideas and different paths and how you can increase your income, increase your joy, increase the love that you have for your life, and just be happy. If we can make a world full of happy people, we'll go pretty far. So that's what I got for you this week. As always, please subscribe to the channel. Post in the comments questions you have, or a lot of you have my email. You can just send a question. Say, hey, Joe, I was wondering about this thing, and I'll do a live stream about it. Always love questions from people because I know what you're thinking about, what you want, and I can talk about it. So until next week, we'll see ya. Bye.